My story. When I was about 9 or 10, my father started sexually abusing me. That went on for about 10 years. It was very hard for me to understand what was happening. Initially, I knew something seemed wrong, but I couldn't quite figure out what to do. I was 9. And up until that point, I was this happy-go-lucky little girl, played with my dolls, played with my cousins, and then trauma happened. And looking back, I can remember when my father would put pornography on the TV, and of course at that time I didn't know what pornography was. It was like a video. And I would come to learn later what it really was. It was his grooming process for me. And then later he would actually tell me that, according to him, the Lord had showed him when I was about 5 years old that he was supposed to do this thing to me. And that really distorted my view of God for a very long time. And we'll get to that in the story. After the first time he attempted something with me, I felt something had changed in my relationship with my dad. I felt different. I felt different about him, and there was this difference in general. And I remember that we did actually, talk to the police, and the police came to take a report, but nothing happened. And after maybe a month or two, it continued. And it went from touches to full-blown molestation. And after about 2 years, it became a normal thing. I couldn't tell, or I didn't realize that it was wrong. My father had done such a great job of grooming me and making me believe that this was God's plan. And a little backstory, my father was a deacon in the church. We would read the Bible pretty much every day. We would go to church. So it seemed like, okay, if this is what he said God has for me, then maybe this is true. And again, when you think about a 9-year-old, if you have children, think about your small child and how without the proper guidance, there's a possibility for being naive to things. And it's not necessarily a negative thing, because at 9, you shouldn't have to be concerned about such things. Unfortunately, that was not my story. After years of molestation, I wanted to break free. And I remember my father had told me my 17th birthday, if I wanted to break free, I could break free. I was ready for my 17th birthday. It came, and I was like, all right, I'm done with this life. And I still remember we lived in a very small town, and I drove to the post office that day. And he followed me. And he called me everything I feel like but a child of God, and told me how I would be worthless and all of these negative things. And it was so much pressure, so much negativity, that in that moment it felt like, you know what? I can't escape this. And so I didn't. Graduated high school, went to college. I didn't even get to choose my own college. I had to choose a college that was close enough where he would have access to me. And my first year of college was rough. I was stressed out. There were so many things. There were times where if my father said you need to come home for the weekend, I had to come home. It was so stressful that I actually ended up transferring out of that college to go to another college, still just as close. And I think the first semester I would drive back and forth, which my father appreciated because it gave him more access to me. But as I was in college, I started to realize this isn't the norm for other people. And no, I wasn't talking about it with people, but I saw other people and how they interacted, their social interactions. I was awkward. I didn't understand the boyfriend-girlfriend dynamic the way that other people did. It was something I wanted, just not something I could naturally have, because generally, if my father thought someone was interested in me, he would shut that down. He would give me all kinds of reasons why that person wasn't good for me. God showed him in a dream that this person is evil, or this person has negative intentions for you, or this person only wants one thing. And so, like always, I would listen to my father. By this point, it was so ingrained in me that he was right and everybody else was wrong, that he could do no wrong. And so if he said something, even if I didn't like it, there was sometimes fear, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to go with what he says. It's typically the easier route. But my childhood and my young adulthood was so filled with trauma and things that I did not even realize until I came out of the trauma. And when I finally came out of the trauma, at the tip of my 21st birthday, so right after my 21st birthday, all of the trauma and all of the emotions started unraveling. And I found myself having to process life, having to process what had happened to me over the last decade. And it was hard. And not knowing who to talk to and not knowing who to tell was hard. At that time, I had a boyfriend who is now my husband and the father of my children. And we had found out we were pregnant, and I was so afraid. I was so afraid. But at the same time, that was my exit from the abuse from my father. Because in my mind, though I had not been saved, I knew that I couldn't allow the abuse to continue because I now had a child to care for, a child to protect. And so that was the strength and the push and the boldness I needed to say, this stops. And it did. So years went by, I'm married, I have a child, but I haven't healed. And then I get pregnant again and I have another child. And postpartum depression sets in. And it was very hard to connect with my second daughter. And also at that time, it was processing the emotions and things from my abuse as a child. So a lot of things happening. And then my family has to move to Germany. So now I have postpartum depression, have not healed from the trauma from my past, and in another country. Completely, utterly hard. But I get there and it ends up being one of the best things that could have happened to me. Because I get there and I am surrounded by caring people. And I actually meet a family where both the wife and the husband were abused in their childhood. So now I know someone who has gone through this and they can help me figure out how to heal. And so the healing process starts. And that was 2011 when we went to Germany. And here we are in 2023. This healing process is still a process. I am so much further now than I was then, but it's still a process. It's a daily decision to walk in freedom. It's a daily decision to be an overcomer and not just a survivor. It's a daily decision to help other people overcome, to help other people on their journeys to heal. It is a daily decision to choose to love myself, to choose to love others, to choose to forgive. Because in this process of healing, I lost family and I lost friendships. When I finally was ready to tell my truth, I had siblings on my father's side that stopped talking to me. And for some of them, I have not talked to them in over a decade. And it's not for lack of trying, because I did try in the beginning. But my husband had to help me realize, he was like, honey, you're trying to reach these people who are not trying to reach back, and it's hurting you. So instead of focusing on those who don't want anything to do with you, put your energy into the people who love you and who are here for you. And that was one of the best pieces of advice he could give me. And so I did. I started to channel my energy and my attention and my affection toward others and away from those who were causing me more harm than good. It has been years, but I'm better. It has been a process, but it's been worth it. I now get to work with men and women who were sexually abused as children. With my nonprofit, Overcoming to Become, I now get to work with men and women in coaching and in mentorship and in public speaking. With my personal brand, Erica Trinette, I get to be a mom that teaches my children early about sensitive topics. I get to have a relationship with my husband where we're open and honest, and I can be vulnerable about all the things, and I don't have to hide. I don't have to have secrets. I can just be. I can just be me. And so I hope that this snippet of my story gives you hope, gives you a little bit of understanding about why I'm passionate about helping others. And there will be other times as we go through this journey, as we go through this podcast, as we go through these conversations, that other parts of my story will be revealed. Thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me. Be blessed and be a blessing. Until next time.